All right, everyone. You may recognize this face. He is back for a second round. His name is allegedly Dave. Dave Murphy, how you doing, sir?
I would have said I'm absolutely fabulous, but I'm actually recovering from some kind of flu-like symptoms.
Oh God, okay, whatever that means these days. Dave, you reached out to me by email because we did a show about a year and a half ago. It was incredible. I actually spent loads of time putting some visuals in because I really loved the subject matter. And we talked about 3D, 4D. I don't know if we even touched on 5D, but you've kind of since that time you've got more of an understanding about things. You take it to another level, and that's why you wanted to come back, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Loads more information, um, including, I don't think I even touched. I think I touched on it last time about the Nephilim being a group of people here. Excuse me. But I believe there are five different groups of humanoids here.
Okay.
Um, So I don't think I'll have time to sort of show the proofs of them, but
Yeah.
um, I believe there are Neanderthals here, and that's what Genesis 1:27 is all about. When males and females were created and told to spread out all over the earth and replenish the earth. Then you've got the race of man. He was created in Genesis 2:7, I think, after day seven. So the first lot were on day six. So at some point after day seven, Adam was created, and he was told to stay in the garden. Right. So there were two groups of people there. So Neanderthals, man,
Hmm.
and then you've got the Nephilim, which are the pairing of angels and human females. And then more recently, you have this phenomenon of NPCs, and I think they're a real phenomenon. I think they came about at the beginning of the late 1800s, early 1900s, with the incubator babies.
Yes. So I did a show with Guy Anderson about this, and he says that they're basically clones. They're quite recent
Yeah,
clones. Yeah.
right. Because I think the first time they appeared was at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. There was a massive building called the Baby Incubator Building.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of babies lined up, and people
Mhm.
could go in and see them and buy them and whatever. Yeah. No word about where the mothers came from and nothing. It was just
Mhm.
thought babies appeared. But it turns out, did a little digging, I found there was a guy called Hans Dreich, a German scientist, who invented cloning in 1891.
Mm.
So you put two and two together. So I believe they cloned all these children who 6 or 7 years later became the orphans that were everywhere in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And those orphans were shipped off all around the world to populate, these towns.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I think while they could create the bodies, the physical bodies, they couldn't create that soul.
No.
You know, these bodies had a spirit that allowed them to walk around and do stuff, but they didn't have this reflective or self-reflective soul that you could have a conversation with.
There's no
You know,
consciousness. That's the thing. There's no consciousness to these people, right? And they don't
right?
have the ancestral memory of the full historic timeline. So that's why these NPCs, they don't have that intuition when they see something's off. Their discernment's not there because they've only got a tiny, tiny snapshot in the long historic timeline. Whereas people that have been around forever have seen this before. They know it instinctively, on a cellular level, they know things are off, right?
That you know what? That's interesting because that's just led into something that I've just recently put into my talk.
Yeah.
Um, the idea that okay, there are two ways of growing and learning, two strategies for an organism to grow and learn. Okay, the first one is immortality. So our organism is immortal, so it will just continue and grow and learn. Okay, or propagation. So the organism will grow until it reaches its limit, have an offspring, and then that offspring carries on, right? And that has an offspring and so on. So it's the same entity, right? And just continuing and just literally just carrying on the journey. Yeah, picking up the baton.
Epigenetically, yes. Yeah.
Well, I think it's more than that. I believe that. Well, I've got a son, and and I can, it's like I know he's me.
Yeah.
He's me with a few genetic additions, probably from his mum. Yeah, but it's essentially me. And what I've done, and I've just kind of realized what it is. What I've done is I've um, uh, instructed him on all the things that I've learned over my life, right, to give him a head start to then pick up the baton and carry on. And that's what he's going to do with his son, and so on and so on and so on. So essentially, he is me projecting myself into the future, and I am Adam projecting himself into the future through various little branches of his psyche.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's nature and nurture. There's the biological aspect that you're passing down certain characteristics, but there's also the kind of social conditioning side of it's mimetic as well, right? So you're also conditioning through social clues and your actions that he can perceive, observe, and replicate.
Yeah, and you know what our job as a father, right, is to
Mm.
say, okay, son, avoid this trap.
Yeah,
This is what I've learned. You do this. Don't do that, because that's not going to help you. Do this. So we're kind of loading them up with our knowledge, of our experiences, so that he doesn't have to start from scratch.
mm.
He can just pick up from where we left off.
Yeah,
But
that's what a true father is, right? That's kind of what you're for.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but what you just highlighted for me is that a clone will not have that. He won't have, because there's also genetic memory that gets passed. And if that clone, grew up in an incubator and then an orphanage, there's nothing to continue. It's just starting from that point,
yeah, exactly.
and they're a blank canvas.
That's why with these NPCs, they just fall for anything which is presented in front of them. That they're unable to use their own discernment, their own logical and moral compass, their own independent thinking, because that isn't there, because it hasn't been sharpened and developed over,
Uh,
millennia,
there's
right?
more. There's more to it. There's more to it
Right.
because
Yeah.
it turns out there's a large population of people here who
Yeah.
don't have an inner monologue.
An inner monologue. Okay.
Yes, that
Right.
that voice that you can have a conversation with, right? So
Okay.
if you're explaining something to me,
Hmm.
in my head, I'd be going, that's interesting. Oh, I wonder if that connects to that video that I watched last week.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to remember to ask him this, because I think what he's saying is this, right? So as you're speaking to me, I'm analyzing what you're saying in real time in a conversational way in
Yeah.
my head. And then I'm forming my own opinion of what you're telling me and then taking that on board. Now, if you didn't have that inner monologue, how do you do that? You
I thought
can't.
I thought everyone had that. I thought that's just a basic part of
Turns
intelligence.
out, no. There's a lot of people, and when I've been giving talks and saying that, there's at least one or two people in the audience that says, "Well, I haven't got that."
Really? So what's the kind of how do you know them? What do these NPCs do in that moment? Are they just kind of like giving you the fluoride stare?
Well, that's what essentially an NPC does
Yeah.
when you try and take the jab. You can show them all the data. Look, if you
Yeah.
take it, you're gonna die. Here are the
I know,
figures.
like come on, come on. Yeah, yeah.
And you get the Muggle stare.
Yeah. The muckle stare, yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
So that's it, is it? So what's the kind of the hallmarks of the NPC for you? Like what criteria do they need to hit so that you know that they're cloned, they're an NPC clone?
Well, again, I think you've got the clones and
Yeah.
you've got descendants of clones. So I think if a clone marries a human, then the offspring got a 50-50 chance of being one or the other. That's why you might have
Right.
in a family,
Yeah.
three people who are dead asleep and one black sheep of the family, the real human and the rest clones.
But
You know,
okay, so
it's
if a clone has sex with another clone, though, how is it a soul's able to come out, do you think, from the child?
Well, I think if you get two clones mating, then you'll just get a clone out. I think that's just me.
Mm.
Um, but I think I was married to one actually.
Oh my God, really?
I didn't know about the cloning thing at the time, but
Yeah.
um, one of the reasons we split up was I realized one day that uh, I'd never heard her say "I love you" without the word "to" at the end. And I thought, am I the only one who says it? And then she just reacts to it.
Yeah.
So, just as an experiment, I stopped saying it. And the result was we never said it again.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm a very tactile person. So if I'm with the one I love, right, I'm always in physical contact with her. So I'll be holding a hand or arm around her, or if I'm driving, I'll have my hand in her lap.
Yeah.
I'm that sort of person.
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Um, and I thought, hang on, am I the one that reaches out all the time, or does she reach out to me? So, as an experiment, I stopped reaching out to her, and the result was we didn't touch anymore. Um, so I realized that she was just a mirror. It was like I thought we had this whole relationship, but really it was just half a relationship, and the other half was just being reflected back at me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
And my son, after I mentioned this to my son, and he said, "Yeah, I think you're right, Dad." He goes, "Yeah, ever since you split up, she's just been like drifting as if she's got nothing to reflect."
Oh gosh, yeah. It's like lunar, right? Lunatic, the lunar, the reflecting part of the raw sunlight, of the raw essence of something. She's just being the reflective part of everything.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
you know how like you go into a room or you glance into a room and you think, "Oh, what a big room." And then you walk in and you realize that, oh, actually, it's a mirror wall.
Yeah,
And
because they do
it's
that in
only
clubs and bars to make it appear bigger, right? They put mirrors in there to go in a tiny room, right? So,
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So you can be fooled, right? Just like you can be fooled in a
Mm.
bar that you think you're in a big place. But when you take a really close look, you go, oh, it's a mirror. Oh, okay. And that's what I realized the relationship I had was.
I think this
Um,
happens also with narcissists as well, because I had this with a woman that was, I believe, a narcissist, and for months, maybe even years, you could say that she would reflect back my essence, the way that I was, and using the same language, same metaphor, and I felt I had this real strong soul connection with this person, and the whole thing was theatre. It was just
yeah,
all done, and they chameleonize to fit the person to make it feel as though you've got this incredible connection, this like one in a million connection.
right. So the same thing. One of them is just the way they are, and the
Yeah,
other one is technique,
yeah,
essentially. Yeah. So
yeah.
obviously the narcissist is more dangerous to be with, I think.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the NPC is literally that's just the way they are. They don't
Just the way
have
they are.
that soul thing. So I think they're the four main groups, but then you've got the fifth, which is all of the above, mixtures of all the above, right?
Right.
And I believe only the race of man and those mixtures with enough of man's DNA can have access to the fourth dimension and do all the amazing things that we can do, that we don't know we can do.
Because I thought that man was a mixture of all the different bloodlines over time. No?
No, you've literally got, and this is what the Bible is all about. Yeah,
Right.
the Old Testament is all about
Mm.
preserving the line of Adam. That's the story of the flood. Yeah, the Nephilim took over the earth to such an extent, they corrupted the bloodline to such an extent, there was only one man left, one man with Adam's DNA left. And that's why the flood came, to wipe everyone else clean and then purify the blood, because Noah's 3 sons were corrupted, and so were their wives, and so was Noah's wife. Yeah. So the post-flood part of Genesis is the Most High cleansing the bloodline until it's completely cleaned in Israel, Jacob. And now all Jacob's children are chosen. Not chosen because they're particularly special. It's just that they're now back to what the Most High originally created.
Okay, all right. Because also in Genesis it talks about God took the rib from Adam and made Eve, right? Like, could that not be
Yeah,
that could be about talking about cloning?
it could. It could. Again, if it was the Most High doing it, I don't think you'd have to do anything prosaic like surgery,
Hmm.
right? But sure enough, take the genetics from Adam
Yeah,
and fashion a woman. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, the 5 types of beings. That's one of the things I sort of added to this talk,
Hmm.
to actually get an idea of why some people can do these things and others can't. So I was talking about the difference between 3D and 4D. I don't know if I should go over the
Yeah, go on.
process
We'll
of
just
getting
go over
4D
the
again.
basics of it. Yeah, just to lay the foundations again if people are just watching for the first time.
Okay, so trying to conceptualize the 4th dimension is difficult because we're 3D beings, and it's difficult to understand what the fourth dimension is. So one way of doing it is to step down the dimensions we know of, and then go back up and extrapolate what the next one is, because all of the dimensions are self-similar at every level. Because this is a fractal hologram that we live in. So very quickly, if you imagine I've got a cube in my hand, and I cut that cube in half and then look at its cross section, now I'm looking at a flat plane, a square. Right? If I take that square, cut it in half, look at its cross section, now I'm looking at a line. If I cut that line in half and look at its cross section, now I'm looking at a point. Yeah. So we've gone down from 3 down to 0. So a line is an infinite number of points all merged together into one thing, going off in a direction. Okay. A flat plane is an infinite number of lines all merged together, all stacked together into one thing, going off in a different direction, 90 degrees away. A cube is an infinite number of flat planes all stacked up on the top of each other, merged together into one thing, going off in a third direction, 90 degrees away from the other 2. So the 4th dimension must be an infinite number of cubes all merged together into one thing, going off in a direction of time. So that, because nothing in this world just puffed into existence, it started as something, right, progressed into what it is now, and will eventually become something else. Okay. So I don't. Do I need to give
No,
examples,
it's
do you
it's
think,
it's,
or
it's like everything is an event, not an object. It's like the chair, the
a
table that I've got,
process?
the table that I've got in front of me isn't an object. It's an event. So a few years ago it would be a tree, and in a few years' time it'll be dust. So nothing's ever static. It's always in flux. So that's why it's an event.
Right.
It's always fluidly moving through time.
Right. So the whole of time and space is exactly that as well. It's an object
Yeah.
which is in one place and all happening all at once. Okay.
Mm.
Just like that chair that you said is not a thing, it's a process,
Yeah.
but that whole process is merged together into that one thing, all happening all at once. That's the bit that we can't get our heads around. Okay. But the whole of time space is that one thing all merged together into one thing, all happening all at once. Kind of like the best metaphor to look at it is a book. right? So a book, the whole story is already written, okay? So from one perspective, it's all happening all at once, yeah? Um, that's in the fourth dimension. In the third dimension, we have to access that book, one page at a time, line by line, word by word, line by line, yeah? So we're going through the book page at a time, yeah? But in the fourth dimension, the whole book already exists, all happening all at once, okay?
Mm.
Right, so another way of looking at it is the kaleidoscope, yeah? I went through this last time. The kaleidoscope is, an arrangement of mirrors around a segment with all the colors and stuff in it, yeah? The 3D world is the arrangement of mirrors, so you can't really change that because, it's like your hair's messed up, so you try and, mess around with the mirror to clean up your hair, right? Doesn't work. You have to go into the pattern to make the changes, right? And in that pattern, right, you've got read-write access to that pattern, okay? Using the right hand hemisphere of our brain, we can go into that pattern and either read things which are, in that pattern, or write to it, make changes. Those changes ripple throughout the rest of the pattern, throughout time and space.
It's like a
Right,
it's fractal. So what would be that part? Are you saying that part's yourself? And if you because I've heard this said before that master the keys to yourself and you master the keys to the universe. So are we saying that you are the pattern? The only thing you can really work on is yourself, and once you work through that, you are affecting your environment like simultaneously.
well, again, it's like the ocean is. Let's say the ocean is everything, right?
Mm.
Well, you're a drop in that ocean, so you are the ocean,
Yeah.
right? So, in one respect, you can say you're separate from the ocean, but you are the ocean, so you can affect the ocean because you are part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so. So as I said, when you make a change using your imagination, which is okay, one half of your brain hemisphere gives you local data, 3D data, tells you what this place looks like and feels like, and right. The right hemisphere gives you non-local data, right? So in that fourth dimension, where all time and space is, all creativity is, right? You've got access to that, right? And I think this might actually explain what some of the predictive programming we think is out there. So when you make a change in that pattern, in that fourth dimension, remember it's a pattern that's creating the kaleidoscope. As soon as you make a change, that change is reflected. So that change throws off reflections all throughout time and space. So, let's say JP Morgan decides to kill his the opposition to the Federal Reserve, right? So he creates this event, right, with a unsinkable ship.
Mm-hmm.
That he plans it to crash into an iceberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's created something in the fourth dimension, right? Now there'll be sort of reflections of that event throughout time and space, the future and the past.
So what is that?
So
What is he putting into the fourth dimension? Just the thought? Is it like a sigil or what is it?
he's okay using the imagination, hatched a plot, created something that came into the third dimension.
Yeah, what is
Right?
that though? Because I know in chaos magic you would create a sigil and you would do it that way, and then sometimes you either do the sigil and then burn it, you do some kind of ritual around it, and that's what's implanting the idea in the 4D. But what do you say it is?
You can do it many different ways.
Right.
I did it with something that got called Project Dog Shit.
Oh God, what are you manifesting?
No, it was back in the late 80s. I decided I wanted to build a two-seater sports car, right? A kit car,
Mm.
right? That I was going to build myself. And so I designed it in detail. I made a 1/5 scale model of the
Mm.
thing, right? So I spent ages crafting this thing. And and then my daughter was, well, my wife was pregnant, got pregnant, and it suddenly became too expensive a hobby. Yeah, not my words. So I never built my car. But it was called, my mates called it Project Dog Shit. I don't know why, because that's what mates do. Yeah. Um, so I didn't build the car. 7 years later, I'm walking down the street in New York. I look down and there's my car. Right? In absolute, it was exactly what I built. Right.
Yeah.
It was a Mazda MX-5,
Right. Yeah.
but it was identical to what I built.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so that's me in the
Yeah.
fourth dimension building something, creating something.
Yeah.
And now, as soon as I conceive of that, whether it was me or Tom Montano of Mazda,
Yeah.
as soon as I conceived of it, now there's a probability of it arriving into the third dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so yeah, that's a process. So, so when JP Morgan creates or conceives of this event, right? It became a probability that actually happened.
Mm.
But when he conceived of it, there were reflections that got reflected throughout time and space. So 14 years earlier, somebody has an idea for a book called Futility and a Wreck of the Titan that explains the whole story. And he might have he thought he just plucked it out of the ether when he imagined the book, but imagination is going into the fourth dimension and finding something there.
I also think
Finding
that with predictive programming, it's we think of time as like we can never go back into the past, but I actually think that you would have an idea or a thought or an action, and actually it cascades backwards in the timeline. I think that's where you get the Mandela effect. But so you can actually
well,
change the past. That's kind of what kind of understanding now.
well, what I did, I made an illustration, and I've got the kaleidoscope,
Mm.
and I segmented the actual pattern, and so that you could see, how it's repeated everywhere. And then I made a little change, and then you could see that change being sort of repeated regularly throughout the pattern, right?
Mm.
So yes, you will see reflections of it in the past, and probably more than one if you go back far enough, and you'll also see it reflected in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I think. It's not just predictive programming. I think yes, they do predictive programming, but I actually think it's something. It's the reason why you can't hide anything. You can't hide the truth, because if you try and do something, it gets reflected around time and space, and people pick up on it.
How do you mean they pick up on it if you're not true to the truth or what?
Okay, every time you imagine something,
Yeah.
or in the fourth dimension, either reading or writing.
Right.
Okay, so as with Project Dog Shit, yeah.
Mm.
When I designed my car, did I design it, or did Tom Matano at Mazda design it, and I just saw it?
Mm.
Because we've got access to the same place or realm or dimension, right?
Mm.
As soon as somebody conceives of something, and now there's a probability that it might arrive in the third dimension. Now it's available for anyone who uses their
Okay.
imagination to see it.
It's like a
So
metaphysical Wikipedia, basically, for everyone to tune
yes,
into. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the internet is the fake version of
Mm.
what we can do naturally. Yeah, we've
Mm.
got access to everything. That's why children don't need to be educated. If they want to learn something, it's there for them. We've
Yeah.
just educated them out of being able to do that.
Absolutely. I've often thought like when an idea comes in, you have like the imagination for something because I keep a list of all my ideas, new ideas that come into my head. I think what's actually happened in a quantum sense, if you think about infinite timelines, that isn't just some imaginary thing that could happen. In some timeline, that idea has already happened, and I'm actually remembering that timeline, and it's bleeding through as something that I know has already happened, and I've got the opportunity to then bring it back into physical reality again. That's just my thought about that.
Okay, so this is actually going into the fifth dimension now because
Right.
what the fifth dimension is, okay, so last time I spoke to you, I think
Yeah.
I mentioned that I had no idea what the fifth dimension could be,
Mm.
right? But then somebody came to me and said, yeah, why don't you just extend your metaphor? You went up to the fourth dimension, why don't you just extend it?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the fourth dimension, as I said, is a place where the whole of time and space, is all in one place, all happening all at once. Okay. So the fifth dimension must be an infinite number of those whole universes of time and space, right? All merged together, all happening all at once, right? Going off in a direction of probability, which means every permutation of expression of existence that could possibly happen
That's because what I was talking. Yes, that's kind of what I was on.
is
Yeah.
there, it's out there. It's
Yeah.
like it's like a multiverse, right?
Yes. Yeah. Multiverse. Yeah.
But it's not a multiverse. I don't believe there are multiple universes. I
Yeah.
think there is one prime universe, but then there is an infinite number of what I call time-space event stacks, information, unrendered universes.
Mm.
Yeah, that could have been, might have been, maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. And and um, and so we talked about the car parking space idea
Mm.
last time, yeah. So in this universe, we're in the 3D right now. Um, as I said, that's deterministic because my responses can be reduced to numbers. So stimuli in, we can predict what the stimuli, the response might be, right? So the whole world is deterministic based on probabilities. But okay, so I've also got the ability to go into the fourth dimension and make a change. And as soon as I make that change, now my future has changed. So now what I've done is I've reached into the fifth dimension and pulled in a different universe which diverged from the prime universe at a particular spot somewhere in the past. Yeah. But this new universe results in me being in a car parking space.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
as soon as I bring it in, now that changes that divergent point. So now I follow this new path that leads to me being in a car parking space.
Yeah. It's like your timeline hopping. That's kind of what you're doing.
Yes,
Quantum leap, right? I guess they're kind of pointing
right.
to it. Yeah.
And so there's kind of proof that this is what's happening.
Mm.
Um, so okay, imagine you're on a beach. Okay, you're on a beach, and sort of diagonally away from you in the water is your friend swimming. Okay, and you look over and you notice your friend's in trouble.
Mm.
Right, so you might think the fastest way to get to your friend is a straight line from you directly to them. Yeah, but that's not true because you can run faster on land than you can swim. So that's not the most efficient path. Okay. So then you might think, okay, the most efficient path is if I run along the beach to the point where it's the shortest distance to swim, right? That might be the most efficient path. But it's not because now the distance is much longer. Yeah. So the most efficient path is somewhere in between. Okay. Now, without thinking about it, you would intuitively take that most efficient path. You know, just like when you're playing snooker, if you don't think about it, you'll get it. If you think about it, you'll be there all day trying to work it out. Yeah, but you will take that most efficient path. It's known as the path of least action. Yeah. It turns out that light does that automatically.
Mm.
So when light does the same thing, it goes from one medium to another. right? It refracts, right? And it takes that very particular path, which is the path of least action, right? So how does it do that? How does it figure out to take the path of least action? Well, my favorite physicist, right, Richard Feynman, he basically gave the answer. He said, light actually takes all possible paths, right? Not just the
Yeah.
obvious ones, but all the way to Basildon and back, and all possible paths, and then all the other paths apart from the path of least action cancel each other out. So you're only left with the path of least action, right? And there's an experiment that shows that's what happens. And the experiment is if you get a camera and a laser, right, and a mirror on the ground, right. So when you fire the laser down at the mirror, that laser will bounce up in a particular angle straight into the camera lens, right. So if you cover that point up, where with a matte black card, right, now you can't see the laser in the camera, okay. So you can get this this piece of foil. It's called a diffraction grating, right? So it's a piece of transparent foil, but it's got thousands of black lines along it. Yeah. So maybe like there'll be 1,000 lines on the head of a pin. Yeah. So they're really, really tiny lines, right? Because what Feynman is saying is that light is taking all the paths, right, that it could possibly take, right, and all the other paths are cancelling each other out. So if you put a diffraction grating down, those black lines are hiding half the paths. So if half the paths are being hidden, they can't cancel out all the other paths. So when you put the diffraction grating down, turn the laser on, right, even though there's black card over where it should reflect, you'll see in the diffraction grating reflections of the laser. Does that make sense?
So, no, yeah. So are you saying then that even though you're covering up half of it, it will still, out of 50% of it, will still work out the path of least action? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you're covering up the path of least action. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So you don't
does it
see
find
it.
the second quickest or
It
second
finds
best? All the other,
all
yes.
the
Yeah.
other paths that are impossible. We will consider impossible,
Yeah.
right? All the ones that aren't being cancelled out by the black lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's proving that light is taking all these other pathways to get to the camera. Okay.
Yeah.
So literally that light is actually doing everything, and the path of least action is the one that gets chosen, right? So that is saying that. So the fifth dimension, every possible permutation is happening. Just the path of least action is the one that's being rendered. Okay, all the others are cancelling each other out.
So
So then,
if we say that our lives, if we're like the light in our lives, are you saying then that so we have an infinite amount of permutations of every single action that we take, and only the correct, how would you define it? Only the righteous
only the
action,
most
only
probable,
the most
the path of
probable
least action
is the
towards the
most
probable.
probable. Right, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So now the interesting thing, and I've kind of skipped past a piece. I'm going to confuse everybody, but I'm going to have to go back to
Sorry.
something.
We're not linear here. We're in a non-linear reality here, so don't worry.
No. So so I don't know if you watched the film Star Trek, the Voyage Home.
No, I wasn't a trekker, to be
Ah,
honest.
yeah, yeah. You don't know. You never
I
lived.
was Red Dwarf, mate.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, so in that film, Scotty, the engineer,
Yeah.
ends up going back into the past to 1986, and he needs something that doesn't exist yet, transparent aluminium.
Okay.
Right. So, and he learned the formula for transparent aluminium at school. So he teaches an engineer from 1986 the formula.
Transparent aluminum?
And Bones stops him for a second and goes, well, aren't we changing the timeline? You know, and Scotty says, well, how do we know that this guy didn't invent transparent aluminium?
How do we know he didn't invent the thing?
It was like, oh, okay, fair enough. So if this engineer invents transparent aluminium and then his formula gets put into a textbook, so that years later, Scotty can, as a child, can learn it, so then goes back into the past, gives it to the engineer who invents it. Where did the information come from?
Well, exactly. It's a bit like in Back to the Future where Marty,
No, it's slightly different.
Marty's on
That's
stage
different.
and he's doing Johnny, he's playing Johnny Be Good, and Marvin Berry is on the phone to Chuck Berry and he's going, listen to this.
Your cousin Marvin Berry? You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this.
And so obviously Chuck Berry's getting the song from Marty, who's playing on stage, but Marty got it from Chuck Berry. But how did Chuck Berry create it himself if Marty's the one that created it first and his cousin Marvin was playing it to him, right?
Right. That's called a causal loop.
Yeah.
So the music in that case, or the formula, right, didn't have a beginning or end.
Yeah.
Right. It just was, always was. Okay.
Yeah.
Now go back to where I was with this idea that light takes the path of least action. It still doesn't explain why light would choose that path. Okay. So I got this all this idea from a video that was talking about, you know, physics and stuff. And when I first put that bit into the talk, I just watched that bit about the experiment, and I just cut that bit out and put it in the talk. But one day I sat and watched the entire video. It was full of maths, so I didn't really want to listen to it, but I sat and listened to it. And what it showed next was the path of multiple mathematicians and physicists literally trying to figure out why light would take that path. And after lots and lots of iterations, they finally came up with an equation that essentially worked out why light intuitively chooses that path of least action. But then I realized it's a causal loop. As soon as we figured out why light should behave that way, that's the way light always behaves. Because we're co-creators of this reality. Yeah, the Most High can create the broad strokes of this place. It's down to us to determine how this works. And for us, it makes sense that light should, take the most efficient path. Just like we would intuitively take the most efficient path to save our friend in the water. Yeah. So as soon as we work out why and how it should do that, now that's how light works. And that's how light always worked.
Yeah, now we're talking about the Mandela effect that's the Mandela effect loop, isn't it? The causal loop of,
yes.
Yeah. It's always been like, C-3PO's always had a silver leg kind of thing. That kind of,
Yes, but literally, as soon as we figured out why, that now became the reason why light did that in the first place. Yeah, even before we came up with the idea, right? It took that, and it's a loop. It's a causal loop. Right?
Yeah, it's like what comes first, the chicken or it's difficult to know. Well, it's just always been there, hasn't it? The loop's already been there.
It's impossible to know.
Yeah,
it's
impossible to know. Yeah.
Because there is no beginning or end in that scenario. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a head fucker. It's a real trippy head fucker, that one.
It is. It is. So what we're actually doing here, right, is essentially we are moving up the dimensions. Right. So right now we are in the third dimension, right? We have total mastery of the first dimension. Right, it's a dim memory now because it's no longer very relevant. Right, we've got total mastery of the second dimension. Now we're coming up to full mastery of everything the third dimension can offer. Yeah. And I think the lesson that we're learning in the third dimension is good and evil. Yeah. Which is the most beneficial route, right? I think every time we moved up a dimension, we lost souls. Souls who had the wrong attitude and were not ready to move up to the next dimension. So in this case, well, you know what? If evil people were able to master the fourth dimension, then that is going to be chaos. Yeah. And what would the fourth dimension look like? If we were able to focus in the fourth dimension, like we're focusing right now in the third, I think it would be like, again, I like film references. So have you seen the film Lucy?
I don't think so, Dave. No.
So Lucy, the film is that she's like a drug mule, and they implanted this new sort of brain enhancing drug inside her, right, to smuggle it. But while it's inside it, it bursts open, and her brain power increases, and the amount, in the film, the amount of her brain that she uses starts to increase. And as soon as it gets to 100, she's able to zip from one place in space to another instantly. She's still got the metaphor of having to move in a straight line, but she's in Paris, and then all of a sudden she's over the White Cliffs of Dover, and then she's in New York. Okay, right. And while in New York, she stops time. All these people walking, she just puts her hands out, time stops, and then she scrolls time back, right? And then she scrolls it a long way, and she goes back into cowboy and Indian days, and there's a whole group of Indians going like, "What? Who's this girl sitting in this chair?" So she's able to manipulate time and space at will. Yeah. Of the universe that we're in, okay, and interact with the people that she meets in those times. So I feel that's what it will be like in the fourth dimension, having mastery of time and space. So right now, we're in the third dimension. We've got the first two under our belt. We're getting mastery of the third. We're aware of the fourth, and starting to be able to use the fourth. And we're dimly aware of the fifth. We've only just started to dip our toes in the fifth. Right? Because think about it, 100 years ago, right, nobody was really thinking about time travel. Well, no, let's go maybe 150 years ago, 200 years ago. Nobody, there were farmers. Nobody was thinking about, I wonder if we could, go into the past and do that. Nobody's thinking that way. And it's only been, 50, 60, 70 years that people started talking about the multiverse. Yeah. So we're just starting to, get to grips with this idea of multiple realities, spanning all possible permutations. But as I said, I think we're moving up. We're getting to a point where we're going to move up to the fourth, inhabit the fourth, right? Start to consciously use the fifth, and have an awareness of the sixth.
Oh God!
So
we haven't talked about that yet.
No, I don't. Now this is where I have no idea what
okay.
the sixth could be. Yeah. But I'll imagine as soon as we get into the fourth and we start exploring the fourth dimension, right? And if you think about exploring the third dimension, for the longest time we were exploring the third dimension in two dimensions because we didn't have the power of flight.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were again crawling around on a flat a plane, right? But yes, we were aware of the third dimension. We made build buildings that were up, but we couldn't explore in that third dimension because we didn't.
Right.
We hadn't. Yeah. Can you see what I'm saying?
Didn't you also say that you know, for instance, you touched upon there like teleportation from the movie, right? Lucy, she was able to teleport. I think on the last show that we did, you said that you can see that we have access to teleportation, and you could look at things like, let's say I'm on Zoom with you right now. I don't know where you are, but you could be in America right now, right? So in effect, I've teleported to America, and then I'll close this Zoom, and I might do a call with someone in Australia. Technically, as a metaphor, I am teleporting, right? And is that kind of that's showing you what's actually possible in that 4D world, but it's in the technological metaphor of that world, right?
It's a metaphor that we can handle at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor that 100 years ago, again, nobody could conceive.
Yeah.
Right? Right? But we've got the conception of beaming, you know, from one location to another. We haven't got the metaphor to do that yet.
Yeah.
But what I was saying about Lucy is that yes, she was new to the fourth dimension, right? She had the power to instantly teleport from you know, Dover to New York, but in the film she still used the metaphor of going in a straight line, time passing to go there, because she still had, you know, third dimensional thinking. Yeah, so that exploration of the fourth dimension is losing three-dimensional thinking, and now eventually knowing the fourth dimension enough to be thinking completely in 4D. Yeah, and then when we're ready, we've mastered the fourth dimension. That's when we move up to the fifth, and the process of moving from one dimension to the other, I think, is Adam's journey. Right, so think of Adam's journey, and as I said, we are Adam projecting himself into the future. Yeah, so Adam's journey. Adam started off in paradise. He had it all. He had the ability to co-create, you know, instantly and you know, consciously, but it meant nothing to him because, you know, he had it all from scratch, right? And he had nothing to compare it with. So it's kind of like sometimes when I go to St. Lucia, right, the people there don't know they're in paradise. You know, they've got this beautiful beach and they throw rubbish on the beach because they don't know that it's paradise. It's just,
they don't know any different. Yeah,
they don't know any different. If they came to live here for 20 years and then went back,
they got the perspective.
Like, yes,
yeah.
exactly.
A fish doesn't know it's in water, does it? Because it's fully subsumed in it. Yeah,
exactly. So Adam had to fall.
Yeah,
he had to fall, go to the deepest, darkest part of, you know, existence, and then climb back up. And I think we're in that process of climbing back up now to end up back in Eden, finally knowing the place because of the journey. Yeah, and I think once we've gone through that progression to get back to the start and fully understanding the place, is then when we're ready to move on to the next one, and then we'll do the same kind of journey.
Yeah, fall and rise. But what's interesting, you know, the fall and rise, if you look at that on a 2D level, it's just you could say it's just like penduluming from like you know, like going through the shit and then coming out of it, going through the shit. If you see it from more of a 3D level, you could see it as like circles, right? Where you can kind of coming from the hero's journey, the circles, leaving the village, coming back to the village. But if you look at it at a 4D level, they're actually spirals. So you think that you're coming back to the same place, but you're never quite coming back to the same place. You're always coming to something slightly more integrated, slightly more aware, slightly more wisdom from a larger perspective. But if you zone in on it on the 1D level, or whatever you'd call the 2D level, it looks like just pendulum shifts like that. But actually from that 4D level, it's actually outwardly growing spirals.
Yes, but I would say rather than a spiral, I would say it's a sphere. Yeah, you start at the South Pole, say,
yeah,
and you spiral out, and then you spiral back in, and you're at a pole. Maybe it's a torus, I don't know, but it's a shape. But again, it's that process of going away from where you start and then coming back to it, having done the whole journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So as I said, every time we move up, I believe that we lose souls, right?
Mm.
Because those souls didn't learn the lesson, or weren't suitable for the lesson that needed to be learned in that dimension. As I said, I think in this one it's good and evil, right? And so if you take it to its fullest extent, we're moving up the dimensions, and eventually we're going to get to infinite dimensions. And I believe when we get to infinite dimensions, there's going to be one soul left. And that moment that one soul reaches infinite dimensions, that gives rise to the Most High, who creates the universe.
Yes, that's yeah.
It's a causal loop. That's
Yeah,
why
that's
the
the
Most
causal
High has
loop.
no beginning or end,
Mm.
right? Has always been, because of this process that we are
We
living
are
through
God.
right.
Yeah. I've often thought I had this on an ecstasy experience when I was back in 2005, but I came to the conclusion on the dance hall, and we are all just one God. That's basically what we are, and that's what you're saying. It's just like we finally realize that we come down to that one soul, the one God, and we were always everything in existence all the time.
Yeah. Now, I had a cannabis journey, right? And which I didn't understand at the time. But as I came to this realization that the Most High is a causal loop, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
then it made sense. Okay. So in this cannabis, it was a long cannabis journey. It was a major one, but I was lying there, and I was aware that my finger just twitched, and as it twitched, I heard this like musical riff, maybe like a piccolo going. Dit, 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 dit. I was like, "What was that?" And the cannabis said, "Oh, that's the sound of your finger when it twitched. Your body communicates with itself using sound and movement."
Mm.
I was like, "Oh," and I lay back to listen to my body, and there was this amazing music going on as my whole body was talking to itself. It was like a symphony, and I was like, I moved my, twitched my arm, and it was like the violins played.
I had exactly the same experience on ayahuasca.
Oh yeah,
Exactly the same thing. Yeah. It was like the other noises of animals were coming in, music was coming in just for every action or thought or everything else. It had a correspondence with some other tone, music, sound. Yeah.
yeah. So it's funny because as I'm lying there,
Yeah.
I'm testing things out by twitching an arm and twitching a leg and stuff. And a part of my psyche, I call it my cloud observer. Yeah. So when I'm in that space with the cannabis, my cloud observer is like here, about just behind me and above me. Yeah. And it comments on what's going on, And so the cloud observer said, "Dave, from here, it looks like you're having a seizure." He said, can everybody just quieten down? So I kind of, my body went limp, right? Just stopped moving. And I became aware of this sound. And the sound was like, if you imagine going to a football match, right? And before the game has started, and there's that low burble of all those voices all talking all at once. And I said, "Well, what's that? What am I listening to?" And the cannabis said, "Oh, that's the sound of your cells. All your cells are talking right now." Right? And I thought, wow. So I lay back and I tried to listen to these cells and try to see if I could, pick out like one single voice out of all those trillions of voices. So I was listening really intently. And as I listened, the sound went, like if the nothing interesting is going on in the game, and all of a sudden somebody breaks away with the ball, and now it's just him and the goalie, and he's running towards the goalie with the ball. Right? It was like, it's crescendo, and I was like filled with this like, whoa, this amazing feeling of exaltation. I said, "What is that?" And the cannabis said, that your cells know you're listening. So I realize and I realize now, but I realize that to my cells, who are conscious living beings, who are Dave,
Yeah.
I am their most high. That my cells aren't aware of Dave.
They're not aware of
So
Dave, but they are Dave. It's fractal, right? So the Dave that we
yes,
see on this Zoom is each cell.
but that cell in my arm
Yeah.
doesn't know Dave.
Doesn't know it's that.
It's
Yeah.
a
It doesn't know
part
there's
of
more of
Dave.
Dave. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a part of Dave, but
Mm.
it's got no awareness of me. You
Yeah.
know, I'm the only one who's got an awareness. I've got an awareness of that cell and all the
Mm.
other cells, but it doesn't have an awareness of me.
Mm.
But it does at a different, maybe a subconscious level, that there is something higher
Mm.
than himself, right? This self, and now it's listening to. It's like if we knew that the Most High was listening to us. It's like,
Mm.
we prayed, and there's like, I don't know, the clouds parted, and there's an angel
Mm.
note from the sky, and we realize the Most High is listening to
Mm.
us, and that joy, that wow.
What about if Dave and John right now are part of an organ? And the fact that we're having this conversation is
We
basically like two,
are,
two atoms or two cells communicating in an organ for maybe a third thing that we don't know about, or a higher thing we don't
we
know about.
we are.
Yeah,
That's the point.
yeah,
We are at every single level, all the way up to the Most High.
yeah,
Yeah. So yes, we are right now, right? We're apart from each other. So you might be a heart cell, or it might be a liver cell,
yeah.
and we're
Communicating with each other,
communicating.
going, yeah, what's going on here? And
Yes.
maybe
Or
the world we live in, because there's a lot of turmoil going on. Maybe the actual human, if we're in a human body, there's kind of internal turmoil, or stress.
what is a human body? A human body
Yeah,
is a point of conscious awareness. Just like a cell
mm,
is a point of conscious awareness,
yeah,
just like an atom is a point of conscious awareness, just like a subatomic particle is a point of conscious awareness,
mm,
just like whatever we make up is
yeah.
a point of conscious awareness, all the way up, all the way down, right, throughout the
All the way up. Cool.
entire of reality.
That's
Yeah.
why it's not important to worry about dying, because it's like if a leaf falls off a tree and dies, right? Right. It was always the tree to begin with. And if the
Yeah.
tree gets cut down and decomposes, it was always the ecosystem to begin with. And if the ecosystem
There's
destroys, it was always the earth to be, and so on and so on and so on. And so our bodies, if we die, we just go back into the next thing that we came from, and then so on and so on.
energy can't be destroyed or created. It's
Exactly.
always there.
Yeah.
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 So similar to what you just said, when you look at a leaf, a particular leaf on a tree, you can watch it grow, and then autumn will come, it will shrivel up and die and fall off the leaf, off the
Hmm.
tree. But spring will come, and there'll be another leaf there.
Yeah.
Is it the same leaf? Kind of.
Yeah.
The only difference is, excuse me, the only difference is the experiences that original leaf had are now kind of gone. They're
Mm.
not really gone, but they're not here anymore. So when Dave dies,
Mm.
Dave's ego is gone, or not here anymore. It's not gone, but it's not here anymore.
You say that, but
But
Dave, like if you know that every cell in your body dies every 7 years, right? So actually, Dave has died every 7 year intervals in your life. So let's say, like right now in your hand, you have like a cell, like a bit of skin comes off and dies, right? You don't think that Dave hasn't died, has it? Dave's still here, right? But after 7 years, every single cell in your body has regenerated. It's completely new, which means that the old Dave's gone, really, and you're in a new Dave right now.
remember what you said earlier, yeah?
Yeah,
That everything in this universe is not a thing, it's a process.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
process.
Process
I'm
events.
I'm
Yeah,
not a thing.
yeah,
Nor are you. You're not a thing.
yeah.
You're a process, and it's like the um all the materials are flowing through us
Yeah.
to create us like a wave.
Because
Yeah.
you could keep removing a finger, a hand, an arm, limbs, take out all the organs, like, but you're still Dave, aren't you? Until what part are you not Dave anymore? Like you could remove everything almost, couldn't you?
But then you can go further than that. What part, you know, you can remove everything. I'm still the most high. I'm still,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah,
you know, the basis of me is still in there as part of the most high. So again, self-similar at every level. It's a
yeah,
wonderful system. It's just that we've been hidden from it,
yeah.
or you know, had the ideas hidden from us, so that we think we're so limited and
Mm.
helpless. It's all an illusion, and the sooner we get past this illusion, the better. You know,
So what's
and I
the,
think that's what's happening.
so are we restricting ourselves on a kind of spiritual cosmic level to learn to kind of as the school of hard knocks to make us learn the lessons and graduate from it? Or is this being some kind of intervention to prevent us from growing and expanding? Or on the ultimate level, is it like this is all divinely orchestrated?
I use again the metaphor of my son playing video games. Right,
Hmm.
he used to play this game. I can't remember what it was, but before the game starts, he would have to define his character, right? His avatar.
Yeah.
So he'd give, you know, a certain amount of strength, you know, these weapons and all these attributes he'd define, right? And then he'd play this character,
Mm.
right? He might have 10 slots, so he can define 10 characters, yeah? So he'd play this character, and sometimes the character played really well, so he'd keep it, right? But other times, some characters just played like crap.
Mm.
So he would delete that character to make space for new ones.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those who don't play well enough to be able to handle the next transition, right? They're just deleted. That's the way I see it. Yeah. As I said, I think the lesson to be learned in this dimension is good and evil, because evil having the power of you know, full power of the fourth dimension would just be total chaos.
But
And that's
we are the evil though, right?
again, yes, we are. We all have the capacity for evil because we've got free will, right? But we also all have the access to the fourth dimension, even if we don't think we have. We've all had experiences where we've known who's going to call us just before they call us, or
Mm.
we've had deja vu, or you know, glimpses of an ability that we have innately, right? And if you're a good player, you'll start to actually explore that,
Mm.
or you know, consciously start to try and use it. Just like you know, you play, you try and figure out tricks with the, you know,
Paul,
with
yeah,
snooker
Paul.
balls.
Well, yeah, what happened with that is like I'll pick a shot that's never been done before, and I don't even think it's humanly possible, but I'll imagine it, and because I've imagined it on some quantum level, I know that that's already existed. It's already happened, and so all I've got to do is actually find the timeline where that's happened, and I'm like, and I attract it in to this timeline.
Right, but
Yeah,
you are actively
yeah,
using that ability,
yeah,
right? Even if you didn't know that's what you were doing when you first started trying these trick shots, yeah?
yeah,
You were just going, I want to try and make this happen, yeah? But you
yeah.
were actually using these abilities to bring in something new into the world,
Exactly, because you
right?
know Walt Disney says if you can dream it, you can do it. But I have my own variation of that, which is if you can imagine it, it's already happened. It's already
Yes,
happened. That's kind of where I take it one step further.
right. So again, putting it into my
Yeah,
model,
yeah,
as soon as you conceive of it,
that's it.
now there's a probability of it happening. And the more you work on it, the more you define it,
Yeah,
the higher the probability.
I would say it's, well,
until
I'd say it's not even
then.
probability. It has happened.
Well, again, there are people, for instance,
Yeah.
who aren't as diligent as you, perhaps,
Yeah.
and they might try and do exactly the same thing, and they
Yeah.
won't ever do it because they'll get to a point where they say, "Nah, it's impossible. I can't do that,"
Mm.
and it stops, and so it doesn't come into being,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
it stays there until maybe you come along and go, "Oh, let me see if I can do that," and then you do
Exactly.
it and you bring it in.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Because we've all got
Yeah.
access to
Mm.
that thing. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, do you pick it up or do I pick it up or does somebody else pick it up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why whenever somebody invents something, you'll find that there's like 4 or 5 other people around the world all
Mm.
working on the same thing.
Yeah.
And one person invents it,
Mm.
before the others. Um, I really think this information, I didn't read it in a book or, get taught it to me by a guru or something. This is me finding threads and finding jigsaw puzzle pieces and finding that they all fit together, and then finding the evidence that proves that what I'm thinking is right, and not because I don't know I find the evidence in a book, but the evidence happens to me.
Yeah.
you know,
Setting the intention for
so
it, and you're getting the reflections
yeah,
back.
and
Yeah.
and so I can't deny it, and I can't say it's conspiracy theory because it bloody well happened to me. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's anything beyond the causal loop of God, whether there's like multiple gods or something. I don't know, multiple causal loops.
Well, I think again, it doesn't have to be more complicated than the Most High, creating Himself,
Mm.
essentially, because then I don't think it has to be more complicated than that because it, it's not only the ultimate complication, but it's also ultimate simplicity because it is the one that is all there is.
Mm.
Yeah, so it can't be more simple than that, but it's also the most complicated thing ever.
Yeah, that's well,
Yeah,
that's within the paradox is the ultimate answer, isn't it? The ultimate
yeah.
simplicity and the
So
ultimate complication, the everything and the nothing simultaneously.
exactly. So I don't think you can go any further
No,
than
maybe
that,
not. Maybe that is
and
it. Yeah.
it doesn't need to go any further because
Mm.
again within that simplicity in that singularity
Mm.
is all possible permutations. everything everything that existence could possibly offer is contained in that singularity.
Yeah, because it's within nothing. There's no thing. If there's no physical things, it means there's everything, every potential for things for something
Yes,
to
there's
happen.
infinite potential
Potentials. Yeah.
in again another paradox that, okay, if the Most High is just energy that is self-aware, okay,
Mm.
that means it is infinite potential, so infinite energy,
Yeah.
even though there's nothing, because
Mm.
there's nothing to compare it with.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a void,
It's a
but it's
vacuum, yeah,
not.
but it's got every potential and probability, infinite, yeah, in it. That's the
Exactly.
paradox. Yeah, that's the paradox.
That's the paradox,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
so there's. I don't think there can be anything more because it contains everything that can ever be, which
Mm.
is infinite.
Yeah, that's kind of the mad thing is like the ultimate God or the kind of the final point is just nothingness. It's just a vacuum. But within that vacuum,
Yeah,
it just has every potential for infinite possibilities. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, that's just inherent. When you've got
Mm.
just energy, which is self-aware, there's potential energy is infinite. That's not,
Mm.
it can be anything. Just like I can say to you, imagine a pink and yellow polka dotted elephant.
Mm.
You can magic that up in your head straight away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Most High, being an infinite mind, right, can literally come up with every single permutation of anything that could possibly be, anytime, anywhere, everything. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Do you stand by the idea? The have you heard the monkeys in a room with a typewriter? You've heard about that, right? And then they say
yeah.
if you were given infinite amount of time, those monkeys in the room would write out the entire works of Shakespeare. What's your opinion on that?
I would disagree because monkeys have a job. No, they're not here to explore existence. We're the only ones here that don't have a job in keeping this world working.
No, but the idea is
Um,
the idea behind that is like with a typewriter, occasionally they might hit the keys on the typewriter, and so they might guess they might actually hit the first letter of the first Shakespeare work, right, of the first book. And then if they had enough timelines, they would do the second letter of that book. So let's just say the first word of the first book within Shakespeare's works was the. If you gave them thousands of years, they would and permutations, they would actually randomly hit THE on the typewriter. So if you extend that and gave them infinite time, would they actually write out the entire works of Shakespeare?
no, because you know what? We conceived of Shakespeare already.
Right. Okay.
But as I said, animals aren't really here to do that or anything like that.
Mm.
Yeah, because okay, one of the things I found and added to my talk is did you know that in Yellowstone Park, as soon as they reintroduced wolves into the park, because they virtually exterminated the wolf because again it was a predator on man, so
Hmm.
we can't have that.
Hmm.
So they exterminated the wolf, but what they did was they reintroduced the wolves into Yellowstone Park, and rivers that stopped running ages ago started running again because that wolf was doing more than just preying on other animals.
Right. Yeah.
Because the wolf was there preying on the animals, feed animals, well, those animals started moving differently. And so the movement of those animals had an effect on other insects, for instance, which had an effect on the plants, which then affected the rocks and whatever. And so the rivers started running.
That's
So
incredible.
you
Yeah,
take
like
the wolf
restoring the
out,
balance of the
rivers.
ecosystem. Yeah, like taking a little cog out the back of a watch, and putting it back in. The whole thing will start working
Exactly.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the animals are here to do a job to keep this earth working perfectly. And
Mm.
yeah, we're messing it up by not us, but this cabal is messing it up by exterminating species left, right, and center, and we're seeing the effects in the world because of
But
it.
but we are the
Um,
cabal, though. Remember, on a deeper level, we are that cabal.
right, but remember the lesson to be learned here is
Yeah.
good and evil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is the most advantageous, right? So we're in the middle of learning that lesson right now.
Yeah. So then, how do we? What's the transcend? What's the aspect of ourselves that then transcends that? Is to integrate the evil with the good, or what is it?
As I said, it's being aware of good and evil and
Yeah.
making a choice
Okay.
that good is the right path. Because
Okay.
if we didn't know what good and evil were, which is again what Adam didn't know
Mm.
because he had nothing to compare with, yeah, then we don't know if evil is the most advantageous way of
Mm.
life, or whether good is the most advantageous way of life. Right? We had to experience it
Mm.
and see it for ourselves. Again, it's the hero's journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in paradise, gone and in the depths of evil, and are realizing no, that's not the right way back to paradise, and go, yeah, this is the right way because now I understand. I get it. Now I've raised my consciousness
Hmm.
to accept that no, goodness, collaboration, all the
Yeah.
good side of the spectrum. That's the right way.
Mm.
Now we're ready to move on without the evil because there's no
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
No point
Yeah.
in going through that lesson again.
So it's not just evil; it's about moving beyond duality. Then.
No, because again, I don't know what the lesson will be in the fourth dimension.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I said, I think that as we go up different dimensions, our physical form might change. We might not even have a physical form when we get to certain dimensions because it's not necessary. It's not just like if we were one-dimensional beings, we wouldn't be humans as a one-dimensional being because this very complicated form doesn't fit the first dimension.
Yeah. Absolutely. So just to finish off, by the way, great chat. I'm I don't know what dimension I'm in, but it's good, whatever it is. Just going back to, you said people might get deleted, right? You said like they would just go, but then you also said before like you can't delete energy. So where would they go?
They just again go back to the ocean.
They kind of go back into the mixer kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the information doesn't get lost, right? So when Dave dies, yeah, okay, I think the ego, right, is what dies. Me before Dave was born,
Yeah.
Dave was named, right, is still going to be there. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the character Dave might be back, just like my son playing that video game. When he gets to the next level, he'll bring his best soldiers with him to play that next level, right? I don't know, but I'm saying the ones that get deleted, I actually think that yes, if we play well, the consciousness that was Dave in the third dimension might get to actually play in the fourth.
Because I've got my own theory on this a little bit. It's slightly different. It's that I don't know if you've noticed this, but as you go on your own awakening, you kind of learn more. Do you find that some of your old friends kind of disappear? Do you find this in your life? They've just kind of, yeah, they're still there, but you just don't have as much contact with them anymore. You'll find as though you just every time you want to meet up, you don't quite meet up, and you just And what I think happens is that as you, let's say, raise your vibration, in a way they disappear from your awareness. It's like they're still in the physical reality, but you're not tuned into them anymore, and therefore these friends that you used to be hang out with every Saturday night, you just don't see them anymore. And so we're still occupying the same game, but you'll just find as you raise your vibration, you just bring in new people into your life, and some of the old ones disappear. And so in a way you are shifting up, you're leveling up, and all the people are dissipating, but they actually are all occupying the same quantum field, if you like, the same game. It's kind of how I see it.
Right. I don't like this idea of raising vibration or anything.
No, I don't like that. Remove the new agey term, but you know what I mean. As you
Yeah,
as
I
you
think
change your own awareness or you change your own perspective on things, you become a different version of yourself, a more evolved version of yourself. Then
yes.
all the things that were attached to the old John kind of fall away, and only some things will stay with you. Like some friends who are also awakening, also growing at the same kind of level, will stay with you, but the rest will kind of fall away. And that during COVID was a time of that where a lot of your friends just like, you weren't on the same page and they kind of disappeared, unfriended you.
Yeah.
There's the metaphor.
Yeah, well, think about what we're doing here to perceive this world. Imagine you're looking at a holographic plate, okay?
Yeah.
So you've got a holographic plate of a city, a 3D
Oh,
city
what?
in
Oh,
there.
city. Oh, I thought you said sissy. City, yeah. Sissy. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got a holographic plate and you're looking, right? So what you're doing is you're looking at probability waves, right? And you're collapsing only certain waves into reality.
Mm-hmm.
So you're pulling out your view of that hologram from your perspective. So if we're facing each other virtually, but if we were in live here facing each other, and my keyboard was the holographic plate, when I look down at it, I'm looking at the back of one building. When you look down at it, you're seeing the front of that building. We're looking at the same information, but you're pulling out and collapsing certain parts of that information.
Mm.
Well, I think it goes with the people in your life. You're pulling out, you're rendering these people in your life, but then as you raise your consciousness, your awareness,
Yep.
right, you're no longer rendering those people.
That's it.
Right?
That's
You're
kind of what I
rendering
mean. Yeah.
people.
But they're still
Yeah.
existing, but we're not rendering them for our own
Yeah.
personal
The information's still
perspective.
there.
Yeah, the information's
Yeah,
still there,
the
but
information's still there.
we're only picking the parts that we want for our own specific timeline. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of what
So
I was getting at.
essentially,
Yeah.
we are essentially in our own universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an objective information field there. We're all looking at the same information field, but we are rendering what
That's
we
it.
need to see. Yeah.
Yeah. So they
So
will
we
still
are.
they still exist. Those people was you said they get deleted. I don't think they delete. It's just they will be deleted from they'll be non-rendered in our specific timeline. And if me and you are vibrating on the same frequency, whatever you want to call it, on the same awareness frequency, then we'll exist to each other because we're rendering each other because we're on that same band, right? But the people that don't support us in that will just be unrendered because we're not even tuned into them, right?
No, actually, I think they're still being rendered until they die,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, when I think that when we move to the next iteration, the next dimension to explore, right? Only some of us are gonna transition over to that. The others are going to be deleted. When they're gone, that's it. Their information's there. What they did in the third dimension is still there, right? But they don't move up and incarnate in the fourth because they're not suitable for it.
Okay, I would, yeah. I was thinking maybe they don't get deleted. They just exist on that plane of awareness forever until they learn the lessons and level up. But they're still always, if you think about like lasagna, like sheets of lasagna, they're still there, operating here, but we're on just that level. And then they're just occupying there. We're actually occupying all these simultaneously. It's just we happen to be existing on that plane where they're down on this plane. If you know what I mean?
One of my sources that I'm not even questioning
Yeah.
is the Old Testament,
Right.
because I think that was given to us to understand what this is all about.
Right.
And it's quite clear that you don't when you fail the test, right, which everyone's got a fair chance to pass, right? The rules are written here.
Yeah.
We all know them. Fail the test, the deletion is it. You don't go any further forward.
Well, no, they would say hell. They would say hell, right? And so what? So that's potentially that kind of reality.
That's a Christian concept.
Okay.
That's a Christian concept.
Okay.
Yeah. I think hell is also here.
Yes.
But that's a whole different topic. But as I said, as we go further up, it has to reduce. The number has to reduce because at infinity there has to only be one. That one is the Most High, because that one now contains the full awareness of all the dimensions, of every permutation in all the dimensions. Yeah. And that infinite, universal awareness is the Most High.
Can that one not coexist whilst everything's also here? Because
yes, it already is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It already is.
Yeah.
But okay, it is a causal loop, right?
Yeah.
But our awareness is of the step-by-step process.
Yeah.
Even though
it's already happened. Yeah.
Already exists.
Yeah, it already exists. Yeah.
But we're giving rise to it, but we're having to step through it, right? But we've already done it. We have given rise to the Most High. We are doing it, and we will do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Simultaneously.
Yeah. So you think actually, okay. So you think people will start like you're saying they'll disappear, kind of thing, as we move, as we evolve, spiritually, whatever you want to call it,
as our consciousness raises.
Yeah.
Terence McKenna basically said that he has a friend who, when they take psilocybin,
Hmm.
It goes through the process of standing more, and not in terms of content of dosage, but in terms of content, because it's overwhelming you with more and more information, more and more information that's going to raise his consciousness. And it's so much, there's so much there that you'll freak out if, eventually, because it's too much. And he says, I every time I go in, I'm trying to stand more, right? And McKenna basically says that human history is a process of us standing more, raising our consciousness, right? Which is raising up to the next dimension and understanding that until we're ready, then move up to the next one, and so on, until again we give rise to the Most High.
So you're saying as we step up, the ones below, like the ones below that just disappears. It's a little bit like there's a Stephen King book or a movie where they're on a flight, and then the ones that are asleep, they wake up in the airport, and it's just like it's the dead version that never actually animated and kept moving through time. It got stuck, and and then these things came along to kind of eat it all up and like remove it from existence. So are you saying that's what happens? It kind of gets removed completely, and then
No, I know. I think again, right? If we had a three-way conversation here with an evil, person there, that eventually they'll die, right? But they won't. When they die, it's like the leaf on the tree goes, right? But the thing behind them, isn't coming back.
okay.
When a leaf drops, sometimes that leaf will grow back exactly where it was before. It's the same leaf, even though it doesn't have the same experiences of the previous leaf. It's the same leaf, right? But I'm saying that the ones when we get to the transition, the ones that aren't suitable aren't going to be played again. Just like my son with his video game, the guy who had not enough skill. He's out. He's out to make space for somebody else.
I'm feeling sad for them already.
Well, no. Again, why would you feel sad? It's like you feeling sad for one of your skin cells.
No, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was my argument earlier. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't be. Yeah, yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff, Dave. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah. Great
is.
chat. Great chat. Great.
It's exciting stuff, and it's a wonderful world we inhabit.
Next time we talk, I want you to conquer the 60 or the 70. All right. That's your challenge, Dave. That's your mission. That's your mission. You got a year and a half to do it.
Okay, all right. That's my mission if I choose to accept it. Yeah.
If you choose to accept, otherwise we're not going to allow you to carry on in existence. All right. There's your.
Yeah, and my laptop will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Yeah, a little bit of that as well.